So I just finished up on a parent-teacher conference with my older son Alex's geometry teacher, and it's November now, end of November. So essentially, he's had September. Well, they start in August, September, October, November. Plenty of time in this class, so it's a good time to have a conference around what he's developed in terms of habits and things like that. And this is the second time this has happened, so it's worth talking about for a second because I think it's super important. This is the second time I've had a conference with a teacher where the teacher has specifically said it's a pleasure having Alex in the class because he's respectful and he's thankful and he appreciates us and tells us that he appreciates us and he appreciates the work that we do. So every day at the end of class, he goes to the teacher, he says thank you, for the day. And this is something that we ingrained in him very early on. And I think that translates well into adulthood, and I think it's important, and I think it's something that it's a little bit appalling, frankly, to hear that people don't prioritize, because being a kind individual, being caring, being considerate, being professional, being respectful, those are the sorts of things that make an impression. And it's a generational thing, but it's also a geographic thing. And what I mean by that is I grew up in Georgia, and I also grew up in a military environment. Essentially, I grew up in a military family. So there were very specific ways we conducted ourselves around those we were, looking up to. I don't want to use the word reporting to, because we weren't that, stringent and rigid and, militaristic. But for your elders, essentially. But it doesn't just extend to your elders. It extends to anyone who's in a position of deserving respect, essentially. And that's anyone you interact with. That's the thing, and that's the thing that kids don't understand, is anyone you interact with deserves your respect. They don't, if they're not earning your respect and your trust, and they're not being good individuals, then the respect sort of becomes a question of, is that really somebody I want to associate with in the first place? That's sort of a meta, approach to this. So let's, for now, think about the idea of going to the bank, okay? There's a bank teller that works at the bank, and it doesn't take much time or effort for you to treat that person like a human being. And to take that one step further, it doesn't take you that much time and effort to respect that individual for the work that he or she is doing. And I'm not saying that they're doing this amazing service that needs to be recognized and you need to, fall down on your knees and thank them for everything that they do, but just say thank you. Say please and say thank you, and little things like that. Manners, are just important. It's a good way to conduct yourself. So let's get back to this idea of things being geographic and generational. So I was raised in an environment where you said please, thank you, but you also called people sir and ma'am. Now that's a Southern thing. It's also a military thing. It's a term of endearment. It's not meant to be insulting. It's not meant to be used in a way that acknowledges that people are older than you. The problem is, in the North, what I've noticed is if you call someone ma'am, this specifically happens with women, not as much with men, but with women. If I call someone ma'am, I've actually been corrected a number of times. I'm not a ma'am. Don't call me ma'am. That makes me feel old. I'm not doing it to make you feel old. I'm doing it because from the time I was born, essentially, I was raised in an environment where you call people ma'am and sir. If they're your superiors, if they're your elders, if they're people that you're trying to convey respect of, that's what you do. I'm not being a smartass. And so many people think that that's a condescension. It's very interesting. So I've erred on the side of not pressing that as much with my kids, using sir and ma'am. They understand that it's important, and they understand why it's important. But I think generationally and geographically, we're in a point now in society where people sort of see that as a negative association sometimes. But the larger question is, are we doing enough with our kids and doing enough with these younger generations to instill on, a sense that they need to be respectful and polite. And it's been very telling in both of these conferences that Alex has been pointed out as being someone who is respectful, who is, appreciative, who is genuine, who is a good kid to be around. And they've said in both instances that he's the only one in the class that does that. So it's interesting, but it gives me pause to consider my daily interactions and the individuals that interact with me when I'm providing a service or when I'm being talked to or anything like that. And that's just something that's gone away. And it's a little bit unfortunate that we don't convey respect and we don't utilize professional demeanor as much anymore. So I think that if you can do one thing that will make a better impression on people, it's to be that person, to be genuinely appreciative of what they do, regardless of what they do. It doesn't have to be prioritized. If it's the person that's bagging your groceries and they say, have a nice day, and you say, thank you, you have a nice day too, or you make some sort of acknowledgement. If they've put forth an effort to try to do something for you, then the least you can do is say thank you. So that's the tip for the day. It also bodes really well when you're dealing with your professional demeanor and the work that you do and the way that you conduct yourself in a business setting. So be more professional, be more acknowledging of the work that people do and the effort that they put in, and say thank you.